Now here, bring you my opinions on the 23rd installment of Among Us Logic, Airship Arrival. This is literally my third opinions video in 2 days, and the other two were pretty long, so I'm gonna try to keep this one shorter than those two, but I'll still give plenty of opinions so that you know my opinions. So here are my opinions on those opinions I opinionated. This episode was pretty good. About on par with Return of No Visor, I'd say. Most of the episode was actually kind of a return to form to some of the better parts of old Among Us Logic, such as Captain not being obsessed with Player all the time, Player actually being a good imposter, but just getting unlucky in some parts, and overall it just felt like a normal game of Among Us. Except for the end, but I'll get to that later. I like to talk about the positives more than the negatives usually, so I'm gonna save the negative parts of this episode till later. And there are some, I will discuss those. But for some positive stuff, Beanie and Rose are back, and they actually have relevance and character. Well, I mean, we obviously get to see a lot of Beanie in Among Us Adventures, and he's pretty good there too, obviously, but Rose is barely developed at all, and she's developed a little more here, which is neat. Another part of that specific scene I like is that the gentleman actually brings up how nobody has the common sense to report the bodies. Like every other episode has an opportunity to report the body and they just don't and get killed. I found it funny how they actually brought it up this time. To round off my positive thoughts on this episode, we have the
Kill the outsider
moment with that was obviously great. I haven't actually found a single person who didn't like that. Other than Wizard, of course. He probably didn't like that. And speaking of Wizard, he seems cool. I wouldn't mind him being in future episodes. The last positives I want to talk about are players' kills. The scene in Cargo Bay with the Captain and the scene in Kitchen with Mr. G's and Poopy Farts were both pretty good. Nothing too much to say about them. They were just decent slots of the episode. Now for the negatives. And even though there are less of them than positives, they're pretty big, to be honest. The first negative I want to talk about is Veteran in this episode. Why was he so out of characteristically mean to the gentleman? His right-hand man outfit wasn't even that bad. They turned Mr. Cheese into a jerk, they're starting to turn Captain into a jerk, and now they're getting to Veteran. And they've kind of already done to Player as well. I don't really like how they keep wrecking the characters like this. I'd say every character's probably on their way to get ruined at some point, except for the ones that barely even exist. Game Toons should stop ruining their characters. That's just the point I'm trying to make here. And now for the other big flaw of the episode, which I have referenced multiple times in this video, but not touched on yet. The way Player lost this time. Sometimes Player losing in ridiculous ways is a good thing, like in episode 11. But this time it just feels unfair. If Poopy Farts hadn't completely cheated by using that tape recorder, he would have won the game through being an actual good imposter. There are better ways you could have made him lose if you really needed him to, Game Toons. Even having him disconnect at the very last second, which is probably one of the most stupid ways you could lose in Among Us, probably would have been better than this. Or you could have had Player make one tiny mistake in his plan, which made Veteran realize it was him and not Poopy Farts, through actual good detective work instead of cheating their way to victory. So yeah, in conclusion, it was a pretty good episode, but it had some pretty fatal flaws that brought it down. And I thought I was gonna keep this episode short, but I guess that got pushed into the gap room with Mother.